La luz de la mañana entraba tímidamente por las cortinas del dormitorio principal de la casa en Colinas de San Jerónimo, pero Lucía Herrera de Castillo ya llevaba una hora despierta evitando levantarse. A los 32 años, había perfeccionado el arte de comenzar cada día preparándose mentalmente para los comentarios que recibiría de su esposo sobre su apariencia. El baño principal tenía un espejo de cuerpo completo que había sido instalado por Andrés como parte de la renovación para ayudarle a tomar mejores decisiones sobre su imagen. Lucía había aprendido a ducharse y arreglarse usando solo el pequeño espejo del tocador, evitando cualquier visión completa de sí misma que pudiera confirmar las críticas constantes de su marido. Andrés Castillo era socio principal de una de las firmas legales más prestigiosas de Monterrey, especializada en derecho corporativo para las empresas más importantes del norte de México. A los 38 años, tenía la confianza que venía de nunca haber perdido un caso importante y el ego que acompañaba a quienes habían construido su identidad alrededor del éxito profesional. Era atractivo de manera convencional, alto, cabello oscuro siempre perfectamente peinado, trajes italianos que costaban más que el sueldo mensual de muchas familias. Cuando se conocieron en la Universidad Autónoma de Nuevo León 7 años atrás, Lucía había estado estudiando diseño gráfico mientras trabajaba medio tiempo en una galería de arte local. Era una mujer creativa, con una sonrisa genuina y una manera de vestirse que reflejaba personalidad propia. Colores vibrantes, accesorios únicos encontrados en mercados locales, una estética bohemia que la hacía destacar entre sus compañeras. Andrés había estado cursando una maestría en Derecho Empresarial y había quedado cautivado por lo que entonces describía como su belleza natural y auténtica. Le decía que era refrescante conocer a una mujer que no necesitaba maquillaje excesivo o ropa cara para ser hermosa, pero durante los 5 años de matrimonio, esos mismos aspectos que había admirado se habían convertido en fuentes constantes de crítica. Su belleza natural había sido reemplazada por la narrativa de que no se esforzaba lo suficiente. Su estilo auténtico había sido rebautizado como inapropiado para la esposa de un profesional exitoso. La erosión había sido tan gradual que Lucía casi no había notado cuándo había comenzado a dudar de sus propios ojos cuando se miraba en el espejo. Los comentarios de Andrés habían evolucionado desde sugerencias útiles hasta críticas directas que ahora formaban parte de la rutina diaria del matrimonio. Esa mañana, mientras se vestía con el conjunto que había seleccionado la noche anterior, pantalones negros holgados y una blusa gris de manga larga que ocultaba la mayoría de su figura, escuchó los pasos de Andrés acercándose al dormitorio. Automáticamente se tensó, preparándose para la evaluación matutina. «Buenos días, amor», dijo Andrés mientras se ajustaba la corbata frente al espejo grande que ella evitaba. Su tono era casual, pero Lucía había aprendido a detectar el matiz evaluativo que siempre precedía a sus observaciones. «Buenos días. ¿Dormiste bien?» «Sí, aunque me desperté pensando en la gala de la firma que es el viernes. Necesitamos hablar sobre qué vas a ponerte». La gala anual de Castillo y Asociados era el evento social más importante del calendario profesional de Andrés. Clientes millonarios, socios de otras firmas prestigiosas y figuras políticas importantes se reunían en el Casino Monterrey para una noche de networking disfrazado de beneficencia. Durante los 4 años anteriores, Lucía había asistido usando vestidos que Andrés seleccionaba específicamente para la ocasión. Siempre eran de colores neutros, cortes conservadores, diseñados para ser apropiados en lugar de llamativos. Andrés había explicado que era importante que ella complementara su imagen profesional sin distraer la atención de los aspectos importantes de la velada. «¿Ya tienes algo en mente?», preguntó Lucía, aunque sabía que él ya había tomado todas las decisiones relevantes. «He estado pensando en eso. Este año van a estar presentes algunos clientes muy importantes de Alemania y Japón. Necesito que proyectes elegancia discreta, nada muy llamativo». Se acercó a ella y la estudió como si fuera un problema que necesitaba resolver. «Creo que necesitas perder unos kilos antes del viernes. Nada dramático, pero el vestido que tengo en mente requiere una silueta más definida». Las palabras cayeron con la casualidad de alguien comentando sobre el clima, pero Lucía sintió el familiar apretón en el estómago que acompañaba estas evaluaciones. Andrés, El evento es en 4 días. No puedo perder peso significativo en tan poco tiempo. Por eso digo que no sea dramático. Solo evita carbohidratos y aumenta el ejercicio. Isabela puede ayudarte con una rutina intensiva esta semana. Isabela era la entrenadora personal que Andrés había contratado el año anterior. Una mujer de 30 años, con el cuerpo de una atleta profesional y la personalidad de un sargento militar. Sus sesiones eran más demostraciones de todo lo que Lucía no era que entrenamientos diseñados para su bienestar. ¿Y qué vestido estás considerando? Andrés caminó hacia el vestidor y sacó un vestido que ella no había visto antes. Era negro, de corte recto, con mangas largas y cuello alto. Era elegante, de una manera que eliminaba completamente cualquier rasgo femenino o llamativo. Lo mandé a hacer especialmente. Es similar al que usó la esposa de Klaus Müller en su última aparición pública. Muy apropiado, muy refinado. Klaus Müller era uno de los clientes alemanes más importantes de la firma, y su esposa era conocida por su estilo conservador y su tendencia a desaparecer en segundo plano durante eventos sociales. Lucía miró el vestido y sintió una tristeza profunda que no pudo identificar completamente. No era feo, pero tampoco era hermoso. Era simplemente inofensivo, diseñado para hacer que quien lo usara fuera olvidable. ¿No crees que es un poco apagado? La expresión de Andrés cambió inmediatamente. Era la mirada que aparecía cuando ella cuestionaba sus decisiones, una combinación de sorpresa y desaprobación que había aprendido a temer. Lucía, elegante no es apagado, apropiado no es aburrido. El problema es que has perdido perspectiva sobre lo que realmente te queda bien. Se acercó hasta estar frente a ella, con esa proximidad intimidante que usaba cuando quería enfatizar un punto. Eres mi esposa, y tu apariencia refleja directamente en mí y en mi práctica profesional. No puedo permitir que inconsistencias en tu presentación afecten relaciones comerciales que han tomado años construir. ¿Inconsistencias? Lucía, seamos honestos. Tú no eres una mujer naturalmente impactante. No tienes la estructura ósea, la altura o el tipo de belleza clásica que puede sobrevivir a riesgos de estilo. Por eso es tan importante que te enfoques en ser apropiada y elegante en lugar de intentar ser algo que no eres. Las palabras fueron pronunciadas con el tono que Andrés usaba para explicar aspectos legales complejos a clientes. Paciente, autoritario y con la certeza de alguien que consideraba estar proporcionando información objetiva. Lucía sintió que algo se quebraba dentro de ella, pero era una sensación familiar. Durante 5 años, Andrés había sido sistemático en señalar las maneras en que no cumplía con estándares de belleza que, según él, eran simplemente realidades objetivas. «Entiendo», murmuró, aunque no estaba segura de entender nada, excepto que la conversación había terminado según los términos de él. «Bien, Isabela vendrá esta tarde para comenzar la rutina intensiva, y he programado una cita con Roberto para el jueves por la mañana». Roberto era el estilista que Andrés había usado para los eventos anteriores, un hombre de mediana edad que trataba el cabello y maquillaje de Lucía como problemas técnicos que requerían soluciones mínimas. Después de que Andrés se marchó a su oficina, Lucía se quedó sola en el dormitorio, sosteniendo el vestido negro que sería su uniforme para la gala más importante del año. Lo colocó frente a su cuerpo y se miró en el espejo pequeño del tocador. No pudo ver la imagen completa, pero lo que vio confirmó las palabras de su esposo. El vestido la hacía ver exactamente como él había descrito, apropiada, elegante y completamente olvidable. Por primera vez en meses, se permitió mirar su reflejo en el espejo de cuerpo completo. La mujer que le devolvía la mirada era irreconocible comparada con fotos de sí misma de hace 6 años. No era solo el peso que había ganado o perdido, sino algo más fundamental. Había una calidad apagada en sus ojos, una manera de sostener los hombros que sugería que estaba constantemente preparándose para críticas. ¿Cuándo había comenzado a verse a sí misma a través de los ojos de Andrés? ¿Cuándo había aceptado que su evaluación de su apariencia era más válida que la suya propia? Pero más importante, ¿cuándo había dejado de recordar cómo se sentía gustarse a sí misma? Esa tarde, durante la sesión con Isabela, que dejó a Lucía agotada y más consciente que nunca de sus deficiencias físicas, tomó una decisión que no se atrevió a formular completamente en palabras. Por primera vez en 5 años, quería verse hermosa para sí misma, no apropiada para su esposo. No sabía cómo lograr eso, pero sabía que el vestido negro no era la respuesta. Los siguientes 2 días transcurrieron con la rutina establecida: entrenamientos punishmente intensivos con Isabela, comidas restringidas que dejaban a Lucía constantemente hambrienta, y sesiones de preparación mental donde Andrés la briefeaba sobre los invitados importantes que estarían en la gala y exactamente cómo debía interactuar con cada uno. Recuerda que la señora Hoffman es muy conservadora en sus puntos de vista sobre el papel de las esposas profesionales, le explicó durante el desayuno del miércoles mientras revisaba sus notas como si fuera una reunión de trabajo. Mantén las conversaciones sobre arte y beneficencia, nada sobre negocios o política. ¿Y si me preguntas sobre mi carrera? Algunos de nuestros conocidos saben que estudié diseño gráfico. Andrés levantó la vista de sus documentos con esa expresión de impaciencia que había aprendido a reconocer. Lucía, tu carrera fue un trabajo de medio tiempo en una galería mientras terminabas la universidad. No es comparable con lo que estas personas consideran actividades profesionales serias. Pero sí trabajé como diseñadora freelance durante los primeros 2 años de nuestro matrimonio. Trabajos esporádicos para pequeños negocios locales no constituyen una carrera. Es mejor presentarte como alguien dedicada completamente a apoyar mi práctica profesional y a las actividades de beneficencia apropiadas para mujeres de tu posición. Era una conversación que habían tenido múltiples veces durante los últimos años. Lucía había dejado gradualmente de aceptar proyectos de diseño. Primero porque Andrés había argumentado que interferían con sus responsabilidades como esposa. Después, porque había comenzado a dudar de la calidad de su trabajo. Y finalmente, porque había perdido completamente la confianza en sus habilidades creativas. Esa tarde, mientras caminaba por el centro comercial buscando zapatos apropiados para acompañar el vestido negro, Lucía se encontró deteniéndose frente a una boutique que no había notado antes. Metamorfosis, decía el letrero en letras doradas elegantes, y los maniquíes en el escaparate mostraban vestidos que eran todo lo que el suyo no era: coloridos, con personalidad, diseñados para mujeres que querían ser notadas. Por impulso, entró. La boutique era pequeña, pero sofisticada, con una selección cuidadosa de piezas que parecían haber sido elegidas por alguien con gusto genuino, en lugar de por consideraciones de mercado. Una mujer de aproximadamente 40 años se acercó desde el fondo de la tienda. «Buenas tardes. ¿Puedo ayudarla en algo específico?» La mujer era hermosa de una manera que Lucía había aprendido a no aspirar. Confiada, con estilo personal distintivo, el tipo de presencia que Andrés había descrito como demasiado para alguien como ella. «Solo estoy mirando, gracias». Pero la mujer, que se presentó como Carmen, dueña de la boutique, tenía el instinto de alguien que había trabajado con mujeres y sus inseguridades durante años. «¿Está buscando algo para una ocasión especial?» «Mi esposo y yo vamos a una gala el viernes, pero él ya seleccionó mi vestido. Solo necesito zapatos. ¿Puedo preguntar qué tipo de vestido?» Lucía describió el vestido negro conservador y notó cómo la expresión de Carmen cambió sutilmente. «Suena muy elegante. ¿Es el estilo que a usted le gusta?» La pregunta la tomó por sorpresa. Hacía años que nadie le preguntaba qué le gustaba a ella en términos de ropa o estilo. «Es muy apropiado», respondió automáticamente. «Esa no fue mi pregunta. Le pregunté si le gusta a usted». Lucía se quedó callada por un momento, consciente de que no sabía cómo responder honestamente. «No estoy segura de qué me gusta ya. Mi esposo tiene mejor ojo para estas cosas». Carmen la estudió con una expresión que Lucía no pudo interpretar completamente. «¿Sabe qué? Déjeme mostrarle algo. No para comprar, solo para ver». Antes de que Lucía pudiera protestar, Carmen había desaparecido entre los percheros y regresado con un vestido que hizo que se le cortara la respiración. Era de color azul profundo, casi marina, con un corte que celebraba la figura femenina sin ser inapropiado. Tenía detalles de encaje sutil en el escote y las mangas, y una falda que se movía con gracia en lugar de colgar rígidamente. «Solo para ver cómo se ve», insistió Carmen. «No tiene que comprarlo». «No puedo. Mi esposo ya eligió mi vestido para el evento. No le estoy pidiendo que lo use para el evento. Le estoy pidiendo que se lo pruebe para recordar cómo se siente gustarse a sí misma». Las palabras cortaron tan directo al centro de su dolor que Lucía sintió lágrimas inesperadas formándose en sus ojos. «¿Se puede notar tanto?», preguntó en voz baja. «Se nota que es una mujer hermosa que ha olvidado que es hermosa y eso es un crimen contra la naturaleza. En el vestidor, Lucía se quitó su ropa usual y se puso el vestido azul. Cuando se miró en el espejo de 3 paneles, no reconoció a la mujer que le devolvía la mirada. El color hacía que sus ojos parecieran más grandes y brillantes. El corte acentuaba curvas que había aprendido a esconder. Se veía hermosa. Por primera vez en años se veía hermosa. ¿Cómo se siente?, preguntó Carmen desde afuera del vestidor. Se siente como yo, como alguien que había olvidado que existía. Exacto. Esa es usted, Lucía. No sé qué le han dicho sobre su apariencia, pero quien le dijo esas cosas estaba muy equivocado. Lucía salió del vestidor y Carmen sonrió con genuina satisfacción. Sabía que ese vestido había estado esperando por usted. Mire qué diferencia hace usar algo que celebra quién es en lugar de esconder quién es. Pero no puedo usarlo para la gala. Andrés, mi esposo se molestaría mucho. ¿Por qué se molestaría porque usted se vea hermosa? Era una pregunta simple que no tenía una respuesta simple. ¿Por qué se molestaría Andrés? ¿Por qué había pasado 5 años convenciéndola de que verse bien era inapropiado? Él dice que necesito ser apropiada, no llamativa. ¿Y usted cree que ser hermosa es inapropiado? Él dice que no tengo el tipo de belleza que puede arriesgarse a ser llamativa. Carmen se quedó callada por un momento y cuando habló, su voz tenía una calidad diferente. Lucía, ¿puedo decirle algo? En mis 20 años trabajando con mujeres y moda, he aprendido a reconocer cuando alguien ha sido sistemáticamente convencida de que no es hermosa. Y usted, mi querida, ha sido víctima de una campaña muy efectiva para hacerla creer algo que simplemente no es cierto. Pero él no está siendo cruel, solo está siendo honesto sobre mis limitaciones. ¿Honesto? Lucía, mírese en este espejo. ¿Le parece que tiene limitaciones que requieren esconderse? ¿O le parece que tiene belleza que merece ser celebrada? Lucía se miró otra vez en el espejo y por un momento vio lo que Carmen veía, una mujer hermosa, elegante, con una gracia natural que había sido sistemáticamente oscurecida, pero no eliminada. No puedo, murmuró finalmente. No puedo ir contra lo que él quiere. No le estoy pidiendo que vaya contra nadie. Le estoy pidiendo que vaya a favor de sí misma por una vez. Carmen desapareció brevemente y regresó con una tarjeta de presentación. Mi hermana es estilista y maquilladora. Se especializa en ayudar a mujeres a redescubrir su belleza natural. Si alguna vez decide que quiere verse a sí misma como realmente es, en lugar de como alguien más dice que es, llámela. Esa noche, Lucía escondió la tarjeta en su joyero, junto con otros pequeños tesoros que guardaba secret de Andrés. Pero no pudo dejar de pensar en cómo se había sentido en el vestidor de Carmen. Por primera vez en años, había visto una versión de sí misma que no necesitaba disculpas. ¿Qué pasaría si, solo por una noche, decidiera ser esa mujer? El jueves por la mañana comenzó con la cita programada en el salón de Roberto, donde Andrés había organizado que le hicieran el peinado y maquillaje apropiados para la gala. Roberto era un hombre de 50 años con una personalidad tan gris como los peinados que creaba, especializado en hacer que las mujeres lucieran arregladas sin ser memorables. Señora Castillo, vamos a hacer algo muy elegante y discreto, anunció mientras estudiaba su cabello como si fuera un problema técnico. Su esposo fue muy específico sobre mantener líneas clásicas y colores neutros. Durante la siguiente hora y media, Roberto trabajó en crear exactamente lo que Andrés había solicitado. Un chongo bajo perfecto, maquillaje que apenas se notaba, cejas que habían sido subdued en lugar de defined. El resultado era técnicamente impecable y completamente sin personalidad. «Perfecto», declaró Roberto mientras aplicaba el último toque de polvo translúcido, muy apropiado para una mujer de su posición. Lucía se miró en el espejo del salón y vio exactamente lo que había visto en los 4 eventos anteriores, una versión pulida pero genérica de sí misma, diseñada para complementar a Andrés sin competir por atención. Pero mientras conducía de regreso a casa, encontró sus dedos tocando la tarjeta de presentación que llevaba en el bolso. Sin premeditación consciente, marcó el número de la hermana de Carmen. «¿Marina?» «Habla Lucía. Carmen me dio su tarjeta ayer. Sé que es muy poco aviso, pero ¿tendría tiempo para verme esta tarde?» Marina Delgado trabajaba desde un estudio privado en su casa en la Colonia del Valle, un espacio que combinaba profesionalismo con calidez personal. Cuando Lucía llegó, Todavía con el peinado y maquillaje que Roberto había creado, Marina la evaluó con la misma mirada incisiva que había visto en Carmen. Carmen me contó un poco sobre su situación, dijo Marina directamente. ¿Qué es exactamente lo que está buscando? Honestly, no lo sé. Solo sé que cuando me vi en el vestido azul ayer, recordé cómo se sentía gustarme a mí misma. Y quiero sentir eso otra vez, aunque sea solo por una noche. ¿Y su esposo? ¿Cómo va a reaccionar si llega a casa luciendo diferente de lo que él planeó? Era la pregunta que Lucía había estado evitando considerar completamente. No lo sé. Probablemente se moleste mucho. Pero Marina, llevo 5 años sintiéndome invisible, even para mí misma. No sé si puedo pasar una noche más pretendiendo que la mujer en el espejo soy realmente yo. Marina trabajó durante 2 horas. First, removiendo completamente el trabajo de Roberto, después creando algo completamente diferente. En lugar de esconder las características de Lucía, las realzó. Su cabello fue styled en ondas suaves que enmarcaban su rostro. Su maquillaje era más dramático sin ser exagerado, diseñado para hacer que sus ojos fueran inolvidables. ¿Lista para verse?, preguntó Marina finalmente. Cuando Lucía se miró en el espejo, sintió la misma conmoción que había experimentado en la boutique de Carmen. La mujer en el espejo era inequívocamente ella, pero una versión que había estado escondida durante años. ¿Es realmente posible que sea yo? Es usted, Lucía. Esta es exactamente la mujer que ha estado ahí todo el tiempo, waiting para que alguien la dejara salir. Pero el vestido, still, tengo que usar el vestido que Andrés eligió. Marina sonrió misteriosamente. ¿Quién dice que tiene que usarlo? Antes de que Lucía pudiera protestar, Marina había sacado su teléfono y estaba marcando. Carmen, ¿todavía tienes ese vestido azul que le quedaba perfecto? Excelente. ¿Puedes traerlo al estudio ahora mismo? Marina, no puedo. No puedo ir directamente contra las instrucciones específicas de Andrés. Lucía, ¿puedo preguntarle algo? Si su esposo realmente la ama, ¿no debería querer que se vea y se sienta hermosa? Él sabe que me ama tal como soy, pero ¿la anima a verse tal como es? ¿O la anima a esconderse de tal como es? La pregunta cortó directo al centro de 5 años de doubts y confusión. Cuando Carmen llegó con el vestido azul y una selección de zapatos y accesorios, Lucía tuvo que tomar la decisión más difícil de su matrimonio. ¿Qué pasa si esto arruina everything?, preguntó mientras sostenía el vestido. ¿Y qué pasa si esto salva everything?, respondió Carmen. Lucía, si su matrimonio no puede sobrevivir a que usted se vea hermosa, entonces hay problemas más grandes que un vestido. 30 minutos después, Lucía se miró en el espejo de cuerpo completo del estudio de Marina y no reconoció a la mujer que le devolvía la mirada. El vestido azul era perfecto, with su nuevo peinado y maquillaje. Se veía sofisticada, pero no conservadora. Elegante, pero no invisible. Hermosa, sin disculpas. ¿Cómo se siente ser usted misma?, preguntó Marina. Se siente terrifying y wonderful, y como si hubiera estado esperando toda mi vida para this moment. Carmen y Marina intercambiaron una mirada de satisfacción. Lucía, ¿sabe qué es lo más hermoso de su transformation? No cambiamos nada fundamental. Solo quitamos everything que estaba escondiendo quién usted realmente es. Esa tarde, Lucía condujo a casa con el vestido negro de Andrés colgado en el asiento trasero y el vestido azul cuidadosamente guardado en una garment bag. Había tomado la decisión. Iba a llegar a la gala como la mujer que había visto en el espejo de Marina, no como la mujer que Andrés había diseñado que fuera. No sabía qué pasaría cuando él la viera. No sabía cómo reaccionarían los invitados a la gala, pero sabía que por primera vez en 5 años iba a entrar a un room como herself, y si eso causaba problems, at least serían problems honest. Cuando Andrés llegó a casa esa noche, Lucía ya se había quitado el maquillaje y había vuelto a su apariencia usual. Él notó que se veía different somehow, pero no pudo identificar exactly qué había cambiado. ¿Todo listo para mañana?, preguntó mientras revisaban his notes sobre los invitados. Sí, respondió Lucía. Everything está exactly como debe estar. Y por primera vez en años, eso era completely true. El viernes por la tarde, Lucía pasó horas preparándose en el dormitorio de huéspedes mientras Andrés se arreglaba en su habitación principal. Había dicho que necesitaba espacio para concentrarse en su rutina de preparación, pero la realidad era que no quería que él viera su transformación hasta el momento final. Carmen y Marina habían venido discretamente a la casa durante la mañana, mientras Andrés estaba en el office para retocar el cabello y maquillaje. También habían traído accesorios perfectos para completar el look, zapatos de un azul ligeramente más claro que creaban continuidad visual, aretes de diamante que Carmen había insistido en prestarle, y un clutch pequeño en color dorado que complementaba los detalles del vestido. ¿Estás segura de esto?, preguntó Marina mientras aplicaba los últimos toques de lipstick. No, admitió Lucía, pero estoy segura de que no puedo seguir viviendo como he estado viviendo. A las 7 de la tarde, Andrés estaba esperando en la sala, impecable en su smoking negro, revisando emails en su teléfono. El casino Monterrey esperaba, lleno de los clientes más importantes de la firma y las figuras sociales más prominentes de la ciudad. «Lucía, ¿estás lista? No podemos llegar tarde tonight», gritó desde abajo. «Ya abajo», respondió ella, tomando una última mirada en el espejo. La mujer que le devolvió la mirada era everything que el vestido negro no era. Vibrante, confident, memorable. Era ella, pero la versión que había estado dormant durante 5 años. Tomó una respiración profunda y bajó las escaleras. Andrés levantó la vista de su teléfono y completamente se quedó sin palabras. Su expresión pasó de expectación routine a shock genuino to algo que lucía como panic. ¿Qué es eso que llevas puesto? Es un vestido para la gala. Ese no es el vestido que seleccionamos. ¿Dónde está el vestido negro? Decidí usar something different. La voz de Andrés cambió a esa calidad controlada que usaba cuando estaba furious, pero tratando de mantener composure profesional. Lucía, no podemos jugar games tonight. Esta gala es crucial para several client relationships. No puedes appear wearing esto. ¿Qué tiene de malo este vestido? Es completamente inappropriate. Es demasiado llamativo, demasiado tú. Las últimas palabras salieron antes de que pudiera stop himself, y ambos se dieron cuenta inmediately de la implicación. ¿Demasiado yo? Andrés se dio cuenta de su mistake y trató de backtrack. Me refiero a que es demasiado different de tu style usual. La gente va a notice el cambio y va a make assumptions. ¿Qué assumptions? Que estás tratando de, no sé, call attention to yourself de maneras that no son appropriate para la wife de un professional. O tal vez van a asumir que soy una mujer attractive que se ve bien en un beautiful vestido. Lucía, you don't understand. Tú no eres, tu type de beauty no es el tipo que puede carry off algo tan bold. Mi type de beauty, ya sabes lo que quiero decir. Tú eres hermosa de una manera subtle, understated. This vestido requiere un tipo de confidence y presence que tú simplemente no tienes. Por primera vez en 5 años, instead de shrinking from his evaluation, Lucía se sintió anger rising. ¿Y cómo sabes qué confidence tengo o no tengo si has spent years convincingme de que no tengo ninguno? No seas dramática. I've been helping you understand cuáles son tus strengths reales en lugar de let you embarrass yourself trying to be something que no eres. Embarrass myself? Like I'm about to embarrass you tonight? Frankly, sí. This vestido, this hair, this makeup. It's all wrong para ti and wrong para tonight. Lucía se miró en el mirror del hall y vio exactamente lo que había visto en Marina's estudio. Una woman hermosa, elegant, confident. The disconnect entre lo que ella veía y lo que Andrés described era so dramatic que suddenly everything became clear. Andrés, ¿puedo ask you something honestly? Por supuesto. ¿Cuándo fue la last time que me dijiste que I looked beautiful sin immediately adding, pero o suggesting mejoras? El silence que siguió fue long enough para answer su question completely. Eso es different, Lucía. I want to help you look to best. No, you want to help me look forgettable. You want to help me disappear so que I don't compete with to image or make anyone wonder por qué such a successful man would choose someone que apparently tiene so many flaws. That's ridiculous. Is it? Because right now, looking at myself in este mirror, I can see exactly lo que Carmen y Marina veían. A hermosa woman que has been systematically convinced que she's not hermosa. ¿Carmen y Marina? ¿Quién diablos son Carmen y Marina? Son women que me helped remember lo que tú me made forget, que I deserve to feel beautiful. Andrés realized que he was losing control of the situation y switched to his most authoritative voice. Lucía, this is not negotiable. Go upstairs, change into el vestido que we agreed on, y let's get to this gala before we're embarrassingly late. For one moment, Lucía felt the familiar impulse to comply, to avoid conflict, to make herself small again. But then she looked once more in el mirror and made the most important decision de her marriage. No. Perdón? I said no, Andrés. I'm not changing. I'm not going upstairs to put on a vestido designed to make me invisible. I'm going to this gala as myself. If that embarrasses you, then maybe you should examine por qué mi happiness embarrasses you. If you walk out of this house in that vestido, there will be consequences que you haven't considered. Like what? Like people seeing que your wife is actually attractive? Like clients realizing que you chose me for reasons other than my ability to disappear into wallpaper? Andrés stared at her, como if seeing una complete stranger. You don't understand what you're doing. Por primera vez en 5 años, I understand exactly lo que I'm doing. She walked to la puerta y turned back una vez more. Are you coming? Or do I go to your most important gala del año sola? The ride to el Casino Monterrey fue in complete silence, but para Lucía, it was an uncomfortable silence. It was the silence de una woman que finally había found her voice y was gathering strength para use it. When they arrived y el ballet opened her door, Lucía stepped out into la noche mexicana feeling like she was stepping into her real life por primera vez in years. The real test estaba about to begin. El Casino Monterrey estaba transformed para la gala anual de Castillo y Asociados. Luces doradas creaban un ambiente warm y sophisticated, while arrangements florales elaborados decoraban every surface. Los invitados más importantes de la ciudad were already mingling con champagne glasses, their conversations una mezcla de Spanish, English y German, según las nationalities de los international clients. Cuando Lucía y Andrés entered el main salon, the reaction fue immediate y unmistakable. Conversations paused, heads turned, the low murmur de background chatter noticeably quieted como people took notice de la transformation. Andrés had been expecting embarrassment, but instead he found himself experiencing something completely different. Pride mixed con una strange resentment que he couldn't quite understand. The first person to approach them fue Klaus Meller, el German client whose wife's conservative style había been el inspiration para el rejected black dress. Andrés, my friend, Klaus said con his accented English, you must introduce me properly to this stunning woman. Surely this cannot be la misma shy señora we met last year. Klaus, por supuesto you remember me wife, Lucía. Klaus took Lucía's hand y kissed it con European gallantry. Señora Castillo, you look absolutely magnificent tonight. That color is perfect con your complexion. You should always wear such beautiful blues. Gracias, Señor Muller. You're very kind. Not kind, honest. Brunhilde, he called to his wife, who approached con curiosity. Come meet Señora Castillo. Doesn't she look radiant tonight? Brunhilde Miller, typically reserved and focused on blending into backgrounds, was genuinely enthusiastic. My dear, you look absolutely wonderful. That vestido is exquisite. Such elegant lines. The color is so flattering. You must tell me donde you found it. Within minutes, Lucía found herself surrounded by admiring women, mientras Andrés watched desde a distance, con growing discomfort. Esta was not supposed to be happening. Lucía was supposed to be pleasant, pero forgettable, compliment him sin competing for attention, but instead, she had become el center de animated discussions about fashion, beauty, why confidence. Señora Castillo, said the wife de otro important client, I must say, you look like una completely different person tonight. So vibrant, confident. What's your secret? I think, Lucía responded thoughtfully, the secret is finally deciding to be myself instead de trying to be quien everyone else thinks I should be. The comment sparked una deeper conversation about identity y self-expression que drew even more women into el circle. Lucía found herself talking about design, creativity, y personal style, con una enthusiasm que she hadn't felt in years. Meanwhile, Andrés was receiving comments from male colleagues que increased his discomfort. Castillo, your wife looks incredible tonight, commented Roberto Salinas, partner in una competing firm. She's always been attractive, but tonight she's absolutely stunning. You're una very lucky man. Where has she been hiding all this beauty? Added another colleague. She looks like una model tonight. These were exactly el tipo de comments que Andrés had been trying to avoid. In his mind, Lucía's role was to be presentable enough to reflect well on him, but not attractive enough to distract from his professional image or make others wonder what she might offer beyond being his supportive wife. The evening reached its turning point durante la dinner, cuando el seating arrangement placed Lucía at una table con several wives de major clients, mientras Andrés was at el head table con los senior partners y most important business figures. From his position, he could see pero not hear las conversations happening at Lucía's table. And what he observed filled him con growing anxiety. She was animated, laughing genuinely, clearly enjoying herself in una way que he hadn't seen in years. But his anxiety turned to alarm cuando he noticed que several men at his own table were paying more attention to his wife than to las business discussions happening around them. During el main course, Klaus Meller leaned over y made una comment que would haunt Andrés for weeks. You know, Castillo, tonight I understand completely por qué you married Lucía. She is not only beautiful, but fascinating to talk to. Earlier she told me about some design work she used to do. Very impressive ideas about sustainable architecture. You must be very proud to have una wife con such creativity y intelligence. She mentioned her old work? Andrés asked, trying to keep his voice casual. Sí, y with such passion. She clearly has una great eye para design y una deep understanding de how spaces affect people emotionally. It's rare to find someone con both artistic talent y analytical thinking. She hasn't worked in that field for several years now. What una shame. Con her obvious talent y passion, she could probably build una very successful career. But I suppose supporting your practice takes all her time. Klaus's tone was polite, but there was una underlying question. Why would una man prevent his talented wife from pursuing her own professional fulfillment? After dinner, durante el dancing portion de la evening, Lucía found herself con multiple requests para dance. Men who had never noticed her in previous years were suddenly eager para spend time con ella. Andrés watched from his position near el bar as his wife danced con confidence y grace que seemed to have appeared from nowhere. She was laughing, engaging in animated conversation, clearly having una wonderful time. But what bothered him most was realizing que this version de Lucía, confident, vibrant, attractive, had probably been there all along, hidden beneath layers de criticism y self-doubt que he had systematically built up over 5 years. The final straw came cuando James Harrison, el CEO de una major international corporation y uno de Andrés's most important clients, approached him directly. Castillo, I have to say, your wife es una revelation tonight. She's intelligent, charming, y absolutely gorgeous. You've been hiding her light under una bushel, my friend. What do you mean? Come now. We've met Lucía at several events over the years. She's always seemed so reserved, so careful not to draw attention. But tonight, she's radiant. Whatever has changed, it suits her beautifully. She's just wearing una different style tonight. It's not just el vestido, Castillo. It's her entire presence. She's confident, engaged, authentic. Frankly, I'm wondering why you've never encouraged this side to her personality before. La pregunta hung in el air como una accusation barely disguised as curiosity. I've always encouraged Lucía to be herself. Have you? Because tonight feels like la primera vez we're actually meeting your wife, instead de una carefully managed version de her. James walked away to rejoin his own wife, leaving Andrés alone con una uncomfortable realization. Everyone could see exactly what he had been doing. As la evening progressed, Andrés noticed que other guests were beginning to treat him differently. There were subtle looks, quieter conversations when he approached groups, una general sense que people were reassessing their understanding de his marriage. At midnight, cuando la gala was winding down, Lucía approached him looking radiant, energized. Are you ready to go home? She asked, pero her tone suggested que she could have stayed dancing until dawn. We should leave, he responded curtly. En el car ride home, Andrés's frustration finally exploded. I hope you're satisfied con your little performance tonight. Performance? Don't play innocent, Lucía. You know exactly what you did. You made una spectacle to yourself, and more importantly, you made me look like una fool. How did I make you look like a fool? By looking beautiful. Because everyone could see que you were putting on an act. They could tell que this isn't normally how you present yourself. They started wondering why. And what conclusions did they reach? That I've been controlling your appearance, that I've been preventing you from being yourself. And haven't you been? Andrés swerved slightly, caught off guard por la directness de her question. I've been helping you understand what's appropriate para una woman in your position. By convincing me que I'm not attractive enough to wear beautiful clothes? By making me believe que confidence is inappropriate para someone like me? By protecting you from making choices que would reflect badly on both de us. Tonight reflected badly on us? All those people telling you how lucky you are to have una beautiful, intelligent wife reflected badly? They were being polite, Lucía. They were trying not to comment on how dramatically different you looked from every other time they've seen you. Or maybe they were seeing me as I actually am para la primera vez in 5 years. Andrés pulled into their driveway. He turned to face her con, una expression que was part anger, part desperation. Do you understand what you've done tonight? You've undone 5 years de careful reputation building. Tomorrow, people are going to be talking about how different you looked, wondering what's changed in our marriage, questioning whether I've been treating you properly. And have you been treating me properly? La pregunta hung between them like una challenge que neither had expected her to make. I've been una good husband to you, Lucía. I've provided para you, protected you, helped you navigate social situations que you weren't naturally equipped para handle. By telling me I'm not attractive enough to dress nicely? By convincing me que my interests y talents are worthless? By making me believe que my only value is being invisible enough not to embarrass you? Eso es not what I did. No? Then explain to me why tonight was la primera vez in 5 years que I felt beautiful. Explain por qué it took 2 strangers, Carmen y Marina, to show me what you should have been telling me every day. Andrés stared at her, realizing que la woman sitting next to him was no longer la carefully subdued wife he had shaped over 5 years de systematic criticism. Who are you? He asked quietly. I'm la mujer you married, Andrés. I'm la woman who was confident y creative y beautiful before you convinced me que none de those things were appropriate para your wife. If you were so beautiful y confident, por qué did you need me to validate it? It was meant to be una cutting comeback, but instead, it revealed exactly how little he understood about the psychology of emotional abuse. Because I loved you, Lucía responded simply. When someone you love tells you every day que you're not enough, eventually you start to believe them. She got out del car y walked toward la house, leaving Andrés sitting alone in la driveway, processing una conversation que had revealed home truths he wasn't ready to face. Inside la house, Lucía looked at herself once more in a hall mirror. The woman looking back was still radiant, still confident, still beautiful. But now she also looked like someone who had found her voice. Tomorrow would bring consequences. Andrés would likely escalate his efforts to control her appearance eye behavior. He might become more explicit about his need para her to remain invisible. But tonight had proven something important. The woman she had been before her marriage still existed. She had just been buried beneath years de systematic emotional manipulation. And now que she had been reminded to who she really was, she wasn't sure she could go back to being quien Andrés needed her to be. For la primera vez in 5 years, that felt like progress instead of tragedy. El sábado por la mañana llegó con una tensión palpable que ninguno de los dos quería address directly. Andrés had awakened early. He was already in su home office cuando Lucía bajó para breakfast, clearly avoiding any discussion about la night anterior. But avoidance became impossible cuando el teléfono comenzó to ring. La primera call fue from Brunhilde Müller, Klaus's wife, asking para Lucía's contact information para una exclusive boutique que she wanted to recommend. La segunda was from el wife de otro client, inviting Lucía to join una charity committee que she had never been considered para before. By noon, Lucía had received 6 calls and multiple text messages from women who had met her at el gala, all wanting to maintain el connection they had felt con la confident, engaging woman they had encountered. What did you tell these people? Andrés demanded cuando he finally emerged from his office para lunch. I told them it was lovely to meet them properly. Properly? You've met most of these women multiple times over el past 4 years. Yes, but I've never been myself when I met them before. Andrés set down his coffee cup con unnecessary force. Lucía, this has to stop. You can't continue this charade, indefinitely. What charade? This act to being someone you're not. This pretense to confidence y beauty que isn't sustainable. Why isn't it sustainable? Because it's not you. You're not naturally confident or outgoing or whatever you were pretending to be last night. How do you know what I'm naturally? When was la última vez que you encouraged me to be myself instead de telling me how to be appropriate? It was becoming clear que last night had opened una door que Andrés desperately wanted to close, but que Lucía was no longer willing to walk back through. La situation escalated cuando they received una unexpected visitor Sunday afternoon. Carmen from La Boutique appeared at their door con una garment bag. Lucía, I brought you something special que came in this morning. When I saw it, I knew it was perfect para you. Before Andrés could prevent it, Carmen was inside their home, spreading una gorgeous emerald green dress across their sofa. This designer specifically requested que I show this to women con your coloring we style. It's been waiting para someone exactly like you. Andrés watched con growing horror as his wife's face lit up con genuine excitement, una expression he realized he hadn't seen directed toward anything in years. Carmen, it's beautiful, but I don't think what? Carmen interrupted, then noticed Andrés standing nearby con una expression que she immediately recognized. Oh, I see. She turned to address Andrés directly. Señor Castillo, I presume? Carmen Delgado, owner de Metamorphosis Boutique. Your wife has been such una joy to work with. Work with? Andrés's voice had taken on that controlled tone que Lucía knew meant danger. Sí, helping her rediscover her natural beauty y style. She's una stunning woman con wonderful taste. You must be very proud. My wife's appearance is my responsibility, señora. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but Lucía doesn't need assistance with her wardrobe. Carmen looked from Andrés to Lucía, y Lucía could see el moment cuando Carmen understood exactly what kind of marriage she had walked into. I see, Carmen said carefully. Well, perhaps Lucía can decide para herself whether she's interested in this particular piece. Lucía doesn't make decisions about clothing without consulting me first, Andrés stated flatly. The silence que followed was deafening. Carmen stared at Andrés como if he had said something in una foreign language que she was struggling to translate. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I said my wife consults con me before making clothing purchases. It's important que her appearance be appropriate para our social position. And who determines what's appropriate? I do, obviously. Carmen turned to look at Lucía, who was standing frozen between embarrassment and something que might have been shame. Lucía, is this true? You're not allowed to choose your own clothing? It's not that I'm not allowed, Lucía began, pero her voice trailed off because even she could hear how unconvincing it sounded. It's that she values my judgment sobre what works best para her, Andrés finished. I have more experience con business social situations. Carmen continued to stare at him, como if he were una particularly fascinating specimen de toxic masculinity que she had never encountered in the wild. Señor Castillo, in my 20 years working with women y fashion, I have never once had una husband tell me que his wife wasn't allowed to make her own clothing choices. I didn't say she wasn't allowed. I said she consults con me. Because you don't trust her judgment about her own appearance? Because I understand better than she does what image is appropriate para una woman in her position. And what position is that? The wife de unsuccessful attorney con high-profile clients who expect certain standards. Carmen packed up el emerald dress con movements que suggested she was controlling her temper con considerable effort. Lucía, mi card está en your purse. When you decide que you trust your own judgment about how you want to look, call me. She paused at la door y turned back to Andrés. Señor Castillo, your wife es una naturally beautiful woman con excellent taste. If you can't see that, el problem isn't con her appearance. After Carmen left, el argument que had been building for days finally exploded. How dare you invite that woman into our home, Andrés shouted. How dare you embarrass me by letting her think I control your wardrobe? Don't you control my wardrobe? I guide your choices. There's una difference. Is there? When was la última vez I bought something without your approval? That's different. You ask para my opinion because you value it. No, Andrés. I ask para your opinion because I've learned que buying anything you don't approve the results and days de criticism about how inappropriate it is. Because you don't always understand what's suitable. For what? For being seen con you? For being your wife? Or para being una human being who deserves to feel attractive? For being parte de my professional life. Do you understand what's at stake here? My partners, my clients, they all form opinions about me based on how you present yourself. And what opinion were they forming last night when everyone commented on how beautifully intelligent I am? They were forming la opinion. Que something has changed dramatically in our marriage, I'm wondering what it means. And what does it mean, Andrés? He stared at her, clearly struggling con una answer. It means you're being selfish. It means you're prioritizing your own desires over what's best para our family, para my career, para our reputation. It means I'm being selfish to want to feel beautiful? It means you're being selfish to suddenly change everything about how you present yourself without considering el impact on me. For la primera vez in their marriage, Lucía laughed in response to his anger. Andrés, listen to yourself. You're angry porque your wife looked beautiful at una party. You're upset because people complimented me. You're worried because para once, I didn't fade into el background. And I'm worried because you're changing into someone I don't recognize. I'm not changing into someone different. I'm changing back into quien I was before you convinced me que she wasn't good enough. And if I don't like quien you're changing back into. It was the question que had been hanging between them since Friday night, finally spoken aloud. Then you'll have to decide whether you married me because you loved me, or because you loved having una wife who had been convinced she wasn't worthy to being loved. Andrés left la house without another word, pero not before Lucía saw something in his eyes que she hadn't seen before. Genuine fear que he was losing control de una situation he had managed carefully for 5 years. That afternoon, alone in her house para la primera vez en weeks, Lucía called Marina. Marina? Es Lucía. I think I need your help again. What's happening? I think I need to learn how to be beautiful every day, not just para special occasions. And your husband? I think my husband needs to learn how to love una woman who knows she's beautiful. And if he can't? Lucía looked at herself in a hall mirror, still seeing la confident woman who had emerged at la gala. Then he never loved me en la primera place. He just loved having control over me. It was una realization que terrified y liberated her simultaneously. Durante las siguientes 2 weeks, la casa se convirtió en una zona de guerra silenciosa. Andrés había decided que if direct confrontation wasn't working, he would return to las tactics que had been successful during los primeros años de their marriage, systematic undermining disguised as concern. La campaign began con subtle comments designed to make Lucía question her new confidence. That lipstick color is a bit bright para daytime, don't you think? He would say casually over breakfast. Those earrings are quite statement pieces. Are you sure they're not too much? I noticed you're wearing your hair down more often. It looks younger, I suppose, though perhaps not as professional. Each comment was delivered con the tone de someone offering helpful observation, but Lucía had begun to recognize the pattern. He was attempting to rebuild la fondation de self-doubt que her transformation had cracked, but something had fundamentally changed. Instead de automatically accepting his evaluation, she found herself questioning his motives. Why would he want her to wear less flattering lipstick? Why would he prefer that she look less professional? Why did every suggestion he made result in her being less noticeable? The turning point came cuando Lucía decided to accept one de las invitations she had received from women she had met at la gala. Patricia Vega, wife de uno de los most successful architects in la city, had invited her to join una monthly book club que also served as una informal networking group para professional women. I'm thinking de joining Patricia Vega's book club, Lucía mentioned during dinner. Andrés looked up from his plate con una expression que immediately put her on alert. Patricia Vega? Isn't she the one who was asking you so many questions about your design background at La Gala? Sí, she seemed genuinely interested in my previous work. What kind of book club is it? They read books about women's experiences, professional development, things like that. And you think that's appropriate? Appropriate how? Lucía, groups like that often have agendas. They're usually full to women who are dissatisfied con their marriages, who spend their time complaining about their husbands and encouraging each other to make dramatic life changes. Or maybe they're full to women who support each other in growing as individuals. Is that what you need? To grow as an individual? Are you not satisfied con who you are as my wife? It was una loaded question, designed to make her feel guilty para wanting anything beyond their marriage. I think everyone needs to continue growing throughout their life. But do you need to do that con una group de women who don't understand our relationship? How do you know they don't understand our relationship? Because, Lucia, happily married women don't usually join groups focused on women's experiences e professional development. Those are code words para feminist ideology que attacks traditional marriage. Traditional marriage? See, marriages where both partners play to their strengths, where men handle business e financial decisions, women focus on creating beautiful homes, supporting their husbands' careers. And what if my strengths include creativity, intelligence que could contribute to more than just creating a beautiful home? Your creativity intelligence do contribute. They make you una better hostess, una more engaging conversationalist at business events, una more supportive partner para mí, but not valuable enough to pursue on their own? Why would you want to pursue them separately when you can use them to enhance our life together? It was una circular argument designed to make independent desires seem selfish and threatening to their marriage. But Lucia had begun to see through la logique. Andrés, can I ask you something honestly? Por supuesto. Are you afraid que if I develop confidence and independence, I might realize que I don't need you? La question hung in el air like una challenge que he hadn't expected. That's ridiculous, is it? Because everything you've discouraged me from doing would have made me more self-reliant. My career, my friendships, my confidence in my own appearance, my trust, and my own judgment. I've discouraged you from things que would take time and energy away from our marriage, or from things que would give me options outside our marriage. Options para what? Para defining my own worth instead de depending on your evaluation de it. Andrés stood up from el table con una expression que was equal parts frustration y alarm. I don't like what's happening to you, Lucia. This new attitude isn't attractive. You don't find confidence attractive? I don't find selfishness attractive. I don't find ingratitude attractive. I don't find una wife who questions every decision I make attractive. And I don't find emotional manipulation attractive. I don't find systematic undermining attractive. I don't find una husband who needs his wife to believe she's worthless attractive. It was la most direct confrontation they had ever had. Both of them knew que something irreversible had just happened. Is that what you think I've been doing? Trying to make you believe you're worthless? I think you've been trying to make me believe que my worth depends entirely on your approval. Because it does. In marriage, partners depend on each other para validation y support. No, Andrés. In healthy marriages, partners validate y support each other while also maintaining individual self-worth. They don't systematically destroy their spouse's confidence to maintain control. Control? You think I'm trying to control you? I think you're terrified to what might happen if I remember que I'm worth loving without having to earn it through submission. The words came out con una clarity que surprised even her. It was as if years de confusion had suddenly resolved into perfect understanding. Andrés stared at her con una expression que was part shock, part recognition, part genuine fear. And what happens now? He asked quietly. Now I join Patricia's book club. Now I start making decisions about my appearance without consulting you first. Now I begin remembering who I was before I became so focused on being queen you wanted me to be. And if I can't accept that, then you'll have to decide whether you want una wife or una possession. That night, they slept in separate bedrooms para la primera vez in their marriage. But instead de feeling like defeat, it felt to Lucia like the first honest sleep she had gotten in years. She was no longer pretending to be smaller than she was. She was no longer apologizing para taking up space in her own life. Whether her marriage could survive her reclaiming herself remained to be seen. But she had finally realized que a marriage que required her to disappear wasn't worth saving. La asistencia de Lucía to Patricia Vega's book club marcó el beginning de una transformation even more profound than her physical makeover. Por primera vez en años, she found herself in una room full de women who assumed she had opinions worth hearing, ideas worth considering, y experiences worth sharing. El libro they were discussing was El arte de no complacer, por una psychologist mexicana, y las conversations que it sparked were revelatory para Lucía. ¿Alguna vez han notado, said Patricia during their second meeting, how we're trained desde childhood to believe que being difficult is the worst thing una woman can be? What do you mean per difficult? Asked Carmen Ruiz, una successful business owner. I mean having opinions que don't align con what others want from us, setting boundaries, saying no, taking up space, pursuing our own interests. Lucia felt como if Patricia was describing her entire marriage. In my case, Patricia continued, I realized que I had been making myself smaller in every relationship to avoid being seen as demanding or selfish. How did you change that? Lucía asked, speaking up in una group setting para la primera vez in years. I started paying attention to when I was modifying my behavior para accommodate someone else's insecurity, instead de addressing unlegitimate need. Can you give an example? My husband used to make comments about my clothing cuando we went to business events. He said certain outfits were too attention-getting para una wife. I spent years choosing clothes designed to make me invisible because I thought I was being considerate de his comfort. Lucía felt her heart rate increase. The story was so familiar it could have been her own. What made you realize that wasn't actually about consideration? When I noticed que his comfort always required my discomfort. His confidence always required my diminishment. His success always required my invisibility. After a meeting, Lucía stayed behind to speak con Patricia privately. Patricia, can I ask you something personal? Por supuesto. How did you handle your husband's reaction when you stopped making yourself invisible? Patricia studied Lucía's face con una expression que suggested she understood exactly why the question was being asked. It was difficult, she said honestly. He escalated his criticism porque the subtle control methods that had worked before were no longer effective. What kind of escalation? He started telling me que I was being selfish, that I was changing into someone he didn't recognize, que I was jeopardizing our marriage para frivolous personal desires. And how did you respond? I realized que if my marriage couldn't survive me being my authentic self, then it wasn't really una marriage worth preserving. But weren't you afraid to losing everything? Lucía, I was afraid to losing everything. But then I realized que I had already lost everything important. My sense to self, my confidence, my belief, and my own judgment. I was trying to preserve una relationship que had required me to disappear. What happened between you and your husband? He had to decide whether he wanted una partner or una possession. Fortunately, he chose partner, but it required him to confront his own insecurities about why he needed una diminished wife to feel successful. And if he hadn't made that choice, then I would have chosen myself over una relationship que demanded my self-betrayal. That conversation gave Lucía language para what she had been experiencing, courage para what she knew she needed to do next. When she arrived home that evening, Andrés was waiting con una expression que immediately told her he knew she had been somewhere he disapproved de. How was your book club? He asked con exaggerated casualness. It was enlightening. Enlightening how? I learned que I'm not the only woman who has been convinced que making herself smaller is una forma de love. And what conclusion did you reach about that? That it isn't love. It's control, disguised as concern. Andrés set down the newspaper he had been pretending to read. Lucía, I can see que these women are filling your head con ideas que are damaging to our marriage. Or maybe they're helping me understand why our marriage has felt so stifling para me. Stifling? Our marriage has given you security, social position, financial comfort, but has it given me permission to be myself? You are yourself. No, Andrés, I'm quien you need me to be. There's una difference. And quien do you think you really are? I think I'm una woman who is intelligent enough to make her own decisions, attractive enough to dress how she likes, valuable enough to have interests beyond managing your image. Those women told you, Kay? Those women helped me remember what I knew about myself before you convinced me to forget it. Andrés walked closer, con esa intimidating proximity que he used cuando he wanted to emphasize his physical advantage. Lucía, you're making una very big mistake. You're allowing outsiders to interfere in our marriage. I'm allowing friends to support me in remembering who I am. Friends? You barely know these women. But you're willing to risk our entire relationship based on their advice? I'm willing to risk una relationship que has required me to betray myself daily para 5 years. Betray yourself? By being a loving, supportive wife? By being silent cuando I had opinions? By making myself invisible cuando I wanted to be seen? By accepting criticism instead de expecting appreciation? Is that what you think I've been doing? I think you've been training me to believe que love means making myself acceptable to you, instead de expecting you to love me as I am. The conversation continued until midnight, both of them circling around truths que were too threatening para either to fully acknowledge. But when Lucía went to bed that night, again in la guest bedroom, She knew that tomorrow she would take the next step in reclaiming her life. She was going to call Marina, I ask, para help developing una professional wardrobe suitable para someone re-entering el design field. Because después de 5 years de defining herself entirely through her marriage, Lucía was ready to remember what it felt like to have una identity beyond being Andrés Castillo's wife. The question was whether Andrés would be able to love the woman she was becoming, or whether he would escalate his efforts to force her back into la version de herself que he could control. Either way, she was no longer willing to compromise her authentic self para maintain una relationship que had never allowed her to fully exist. El momento decisivo llegó 3 semanas después cuando Lucía made una decisión que would change everything. She applied para una position at una prestigious architectural firm que specialized in sustainable design, el field she had been passionate about before her marriage. She had been working con Marina not just on her appearance, but on rebuilding the confidence necessary to re-enter professional life. Marina had connected her con una career counselor who specialized in helping women return to their fields after extended absences. You have to understand, the counselor had explained, that rebuilding professional confidence después de years de being told your career aspirations were unimportant is like rehabilitating después de una injury. It takes time y intentional effort. Lucía had spent 2 weeks updating her portfolio, researching current trends and sustainable architecture, while preparing para interviews. She hadn't told Andrés anything about este process, knowing that he would find ways to undermine her confidence before she had a chance to test it independently. El call came on una Thursday afternoon mientras Andrés was at work. Señora Castillo, this is María Elena Vázquez from Verde Arquitectura. We reviewed your portfolio y would like to schedule an interview para next week. Lucía's hands were shaking cuando she hung up el phone. For la primera vez in 5 years, someone was considering her para something based on her professional qualifications rather than her relationship to Andrés. That evening, she decided it was time para honesty. Andrés, I need to tell you something important. He looked up from his legal briefs con una expression que suggested he was bracing himself para more difficult behavior. I applied para una job at Verde Arquitectura, y they want to interview me next week. La silence que followed was so complete que she could hear el clock ticking in la kitchen. Perdón? I applied para una position as una junior architect. They specialize in sustainable design, which was my focus before we got married. Without discussing it con me? Yes, without discussing it con you. Why would you make such una major decision without consulting me? Because it's my career, y because I knew you would try to talk me out de it. Andrés stood up con una expression que was moving rapidly from surprise to anger. Of course I would try to talk you out de it. Do you have any idea how this makes me look? How does my having una career make you look? Like I can't provide para my wife. Like you're so dissatisfied con our life que you need to seek fulfillment elsewhere. Or like you're married to una talented, intelligent woman who contributes to society. Lucía, you haven't worked in that field para 5 years. Do you have any idea how much has changed? How far behind you are? How embarrassing it will be when you can't perform at a level they expect. Each word was designed to plant seeds de doubt y fear. Maybe I am behind. Maybe I will need to work extra hard to catch up. But I'll never know unless I try. And what about your responsibilities here? What about supporting my career? What about maintaining our home? What about my right to have una life beyond supporting your career? Your life is supporting my career. That's what marriage means. No, Andrés, that's what servitude means. The word hung between them like una slap. Servitude? Is that what you think our marriage has been? I think our marriage has been me disappearing myself to enhance your image. Are you calling that love? And now you want to what? Abandon everything we've built together para chase una fantasy about being una successful architect? I want to find out whether I can be both una good wife y una whole person. And if you can't, if this job interferes con your responsibilities to our marriage, then we'll figure out how to balance both, like millions of couples do. Other couples don't have my level to professional responsibility. Other couples don't move in circles where image matters as much as it does on mine. And other couples don't have wives who have been convinced that their only value is being decorative accessories. Andrés moved closer, using his physical presence to intimidate. If you take this job, There will be consequences, Lucia. I won't tolerate una wife who puts her selfish desires ahead to what's best para our family. What consequences? Social consequences, financial consequences, professional consequences para both de us. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you que actions have results que you might not have considered. Like what? Like el possibility que I might decide una wife who can't support her husband's career isn't una wife worth having. The threat was barely veiled, pero it was also revealing. He was admitting que his love was conditional on her submission. And I might decide que un husband who can't support his wife's growth isn't uno husband worth keeping. It was the first time Ella had ever directly threatened el possibility de ending their marriage. Both of them knew que something fundamental had just shifted. You would divorce me over una job? I would divorce you over your need to control every aspect of my existence. I don't control you. You told me what to wear, what to eat, how to style my hair, who to befriend, what career to have, how to think about myself. If that isn't control, what is? That's guidance. That's protection. That's love. No, Andrés. Love doesn't require the person you love to disappear. The argument continued para another hour, but both of them knew que it was really over. They had reached el point where compromise was no longer possible. Either Andrés would accept that Lucía was going to reclaim her full identity, or their marriage would end. Para la primera time in 5 years, Lucía was at peace con either outcome. She had remembered what it felt like to be una complete person, y she was no longer willing to trade that para una relationship que required her diminishment. Whether Andrés could learn to love una whole woman remained to be seen. But either way, she was done trying to earn love by making herself smaller. 6 months después de la gala que changed everything, Lucía stood in front de el mirror in her new apartment in la Colonia Roma Norte, getting ready para her first day as una junior architect at Verde Arquitectura. The woman looking back at her was radiant, con una confidence que came from within rather than from external validation. Her divorce from Andrés had been finalized 2 months earlier. It had been brutal. He had fought para everything, from alimony to their shared assets, seeming to believe que financial punishment would force her back into submission. But Patricia's book club had connected her con an excellent attorney who specialized in helping women navigate divorces from controlling spouses. La casa they had shared in Colinas de San Jerónimo, which had felt like una beautiful prison, was now his alone. Lucía had taken only her personal belongings y some furniture, preferring to start fresh rather than surround herself con reminders de years when she had been convinced she wasn't enough. Her new apartment was smaller, modestly furnished, pero it was entirely hers. Every object reflected her taste, her interests, her personality. Para la primera vez in years, she woke up cada morning excited about el day ahead, rather than anxious about avoiding criticism. El job at Verde Arquitectura had been challenging exactly as Andrés had predicted. She was behind on current technology, industry standards had been evolved, and her confidence in professional settings had been severely damaged by years of being told her ideas weren't valuable. But her colleagues, particularly her supervisor Clara Mendoza, had been supportive as she caught up. Clara was una woman in her 50s, quien had built her career durante una time when even fewer opportunities existed para women in architecture. The technical skills you can relearn, Clara had told her durante her first week. What's harder to rebuild is la belief que your ideas deserve to be heard. But I can see que you're working on that too. Lucía was. With help from Ella Book Club, therapy con una counselor who specialized in recovery from emotional abuse, why the daily practice to making decisions based on her own judgment rather than fear de others' reactions, she was slowly becoming la personne she had been meant to be. Her appearance had stabilized into something key was purely her own style, professional but feminine, elegant but approachable, carefully chosen to reflect her personality rather than to avoid criticism. She wore colors que made her feel vibrant, cuts que celebrated her figure, makeup que enhanced rather than obscured her natural features. But more importantly, she had learned to see herself through her own eyes rather than through Andrés's systematic criticism. That morning, as she prepared para work, her phone rang con una number she didn't recognize. Lucía? As James Harrison. It took her una moment to place el nam, el CEO of una major international corporation, quien had been at El Gala 6 months earlier. Mr. Harrison, what una surprise. How can I help you? Actually, I'm hoping I can help you. I've been following your career transition through mutual friends. I have una proposal que might interest you. A proposal? My company is planning una major expansion in Mexico, including una new headquarters building que we want to be una model de sustainable design. When I remembered your background y your passion para environmental architecture, I thought you might be the perfect person to consult on el project. Lucía felt her heart rate increase. It was exactly el type of opportunity she had dreamed about during her university years. Mr. Harrison, I'm honored, but I should mention que I'm still rebuilding my professional experience. I only recently returned to practice. I'm not looking para someone with una long resume. I'm looking para someone con fresh perspective, genuine passion, o en la courage to take on challenging projects. From what I observed at la gala, you have all three. It was una moment de validación que would have seemed impossible during her marriage. Someone was offering her una major opportunity based on their assessment de her capabilities, not her relationship to anyone else. I would be very interested in discussing this further. Excellent. Can you meet me next week para lunch? I'll be in Monterrey on Wednesday. After she hung up, Lucía sat in silence para varios minutes, processing what had just happened. Not only was she rebuilding her career, but she was being sought out para high-level projects by people quien recognized her potential. Durante lunch that Wednesday, James Harrison explained que he remembered her from la gala, not just because de her stunning appearance, but because de una conversation they had had about sustainable building materials que had impressed him con her knowledge y passion. Your husband seemed surprised que you knew so much about commercial architecture, he mentioned casually. My ex-husband, Lucía corrected. And yes, he was often surprised when I demonstrated knowledge about subjects he thought were beyond me. Ex-husband? I'm sorry to hear about el divorce. I'm not. It was the best decision I ever made. James studied her con una expression que suggested he understood more than he was saying. Can I share una observation? At la gala 6 months ago, you seemed like una different person entirely than la woman sitting across from me now. How so? Then, you seemed contained somehow, like you were holding yourself back. Now you seem like someone who has found her voice. I think that's exactly what happened. Well, whatever el process was, it's resulted in someone I'm confident can handle this project. Are you interested? Absolutely. The project James offered was everything Lucía had dreamed of, designing una corporate headquarters que would be both beautiful y environmentally responsible, con un budget que would allow para innovative materials y techniques, working con un international team de experts. But more than the professional opportunity, it represented something even more valuable, proof que she had been right to believe in herself, right to leave una marriage que required her diminishment, right to pursue her own dreams, even when it meant starting over at 32. That night, she called her parents en Guadalajara to share les news. They had been supportive during el divorce, despite their initial concerns about her leaving una financially secure marriage. Mija, we're so proud to you, her mother said through tears, not just because of this wonderful opportunity, but because you found la courage to choose yourself. Do you ever regret encouraging me to marry Andrés? Lucía asked. We never encouraged you to marry him, mi amor. We encouraged you to be happy. We just didn't realize at el time que those were two different things. Later that evening, Marina called to congratulate her on el new project. You know what I'm most proud of? Marina said. What? That you did this completely on your own. No one gave you this opportunity because they felt sorry para you, or porque they wanted to help el poor divorced woman. You earned it based on your talent y intelligence. It feels surreal sometimes. 6 months ago, I couldn't even choose una lipstick color without anxiety about whether it was appropriate. Jos, and now? Now I'm designing buildings and making decisions que will affect hundreds to people's work environment. Now I wake up excited instead de anxious. Now I see una strong, capable woman when I look in el mirror. Any regrets about el divorce? Lucía considered the question seriously. I regret that it took me so long to recognize what was happening. I regret that I wasted years doubting myself because I believed someone else's assessment to my worth was more accurate than my own. But I don't regret ending una marriage que required me to be less than I am. Have you heard from Andrés recently? He called last month. He wanted to know if I was satisfied with el choice I had made. y whether I was ready to discuss reconciliation like reasonable adults. What did you tell him? I told him that I had never been more satisfied con any decision in my life. That reasonable adults don't spend years systematically destroying their partner's self-esteem. How did he respond? He hung up. But Marina, here's the thing. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't question whether I had been too harsh. I didn't wonder if maybe he was right. I was being unreasonable. Para la primera time in our entire relationship, I trusted my own judgment more than his manipulation. That night, as Lucía prepared para bed in her small but perfect apartment, she reflected on el journey that had brought her from a woman who had been afraid to look in mirrors to la woman who was about to design buildings que would be seen by thousands to people. The transformation hadn't been easy. Rebuilding confidence después de years de systematic emotional abuse required daily conscious effort. Learning to trust her own judgment después de being told repeatedly que it was flawed had been uno de los most challenging aspects de recovery. But she had done it. She had reclaimed herself. As she looked una última time in el mirror before bed, she saw exactly what Carmen had seen that first day on La Boutique. Una beautiful woman who deserved to be celebrated, not hidden. And tomorrow, she would begin work on UN project que combined her professional passions con her personal values, surrounded by colleagues who respected her ideas. I supported her growth. It was everything she had dreamed of during those years when she had been convinced que dreams were selfish luxuries she couldn't afford. But most importantly, it was proof que la woman who had been told she was too fee to be seen había always been hermosa. She had just needed to remember how to see herself clearly. And now que she could, nothing would ever convince her to make herself invisible again. Para la primera time in years, Lucía fell asleep completely at peace con who she was, excited about who she was becoming, y grateful para la courage that had allowed her to choose herself over una relationship que demanded her disappearance. The woman in el mirror was finally free.